Hey everybody, this is Perch. I've got two emails. Ironically, there's from a kind of a writer and an artist, and they're both kind of asking a similar question. So I'll read both emails and then kind of give some advice. But a lot of what I'm going to give, I don't think will be the advice people want to hear, or at least we'll have a conversation. So the first one's from the artist, and he says, "Hi Perch, seems like there are no comic artist related jobs open in Marvel and DC, and smaller companies like IDW and Boom don't have a way of getting hired." Um, don't have a way of hiring a young artist with no connections. Here's some of my art. If you know any editors, be interested. Not trying to self promote. I just want a job. Thanks for reading. Okay. So I'm putting some art on the screen. You can see this artist. What I like about this art, by the way, and there's a lot of refinement. One of the challenges I think with a lot of artists is that they draw or they show things like this, like what you're seeing, which is for lack of a better word, kind of cover work or splash page work. And you need to show sequential art. You basically need to have in your portfolio, dull panels. I make jokes about this all the time, but if your goal is to get hired by Marvel or DC, and this is not a joke, have a couple page samples that show the characters, in civilian clothes talking, going into a restaurant, eating in a diner, villain breaks in, hero kind of bursts into costume and fight ensues. Meaning show the how the story progresses from panel to panel in your samples. Because if you want to separate yourself from some of the competition out there, a lot of writers have samples that are just like, you know, character shots like this. This is good work. When I see this stuff, it reminds me a little bit of a Portaccio kind of feel to it. But it's fun. It's good stuff. You got a lot of the fundamentals down. But what you don't see in here are, can you draw backgrounds? Can you draw action going from one panel to another? So I think and you probably have it. You just didn't send it, for this mail. But that's the stuff that I've seen a lot of portfolio reviews or people do show up, or even talk to editors who go on to Instagram and stuff to look for artists, and 95% of them have just like character shot or one action shot. And it's extremely rare when you get somebody who shows a page, how the action flows from one panel to another. If you do that, you'll be delivering something that rarely is seen in comics by editors. And that alone is going to help you stand out. But beyond that, it's going to, that's what drawing a comic is going to be. It's going to be a lot of that work. And so you're proving you can do that. So I'd recommend that. Anyway, there's art's up on the screen. Hopefully you guys are taking a look at it. Um, anyway, let's see what we got. For the next mail, we're talking more about a writer, but similar thing. It says, "Dear Perch Master Flex." Nice. "I just listened to your video answering the mail of the Superstar creator and the loss of that dynamic between publisher and Superstar. What about taking that relationship and leveraging on a local level? I incidentally live in the same town as Mark Bagley. I met him a few times, but you wouldn't know he. Sorry, I met a few times, but more so his family, as well as folks connected to him in some form. I mean, here's a guy who created Carnage and had a definitive run in Spider-Man, but you wouldn't know he lived here unless you were at DragonCon or the LCS he's been frequenting that led to his start. Though I can think of reasons why he wouldn't bother much due to his age, but that's me guessing. What I really want to know is how can I or any other artist do so on our own accord? I too make comics, and I'm increasingly becoming known in my downtown community as a cartoonist who makes up stories about the town. I've worked with local businesses, schools, and I'm nominated for Best Visual Artist in the county for 2025. How can I double down on this? I'm starting to show up more to art-related events that the town puts on. I have merch, art, etc. But because I feel like I'm charting new ground, what can I do to really push the envelope? I'll be taking the Piscor approach and will be serializing my comics on social media to build that following, to then later sell printed materials. But I can't help if I'm missing something, that secret sauce. Maybe it's just my insecurity in doing something new. I admire your advice to creators and have hung on every word, taking copious notes, but I figure I'll have something contextual to meet. I hope you get this mail. Hope all's well family health-wise. Here are my prayers. Thank you very much. Be an honor to buy you a beer one day. I'll buy you a beer. Here's Perching to you, kid. Oh, thank you. Um, so it's kind of it's a similar mail to the artist, and basically it all comes down to, look, um, you have you're doing work, you would like to get noticed, so you have some options, and My answer to you is really kind of the same thing as the artist. We mistakenly called you writer. I think you are an artist. You referenced doing the drawing as well. Um, I think that, look, you have to look at what everyone else is doing, which fortunately is very little. A lot of what's happening is nothing. And so anything you do, in many cases, is going to either gain attention because it's good or gain attention because it's novel. And if you think about kind of spending your credibility or building your career, you don't want to have a career completely based on novel ideas. You need some of them to actually be good, but you get a couple of those. Doing kind of a stunt or something different with your art, trying out something new, you get a couple just points for just doing something people haven't seen before, and that's valuable. Not every idea has to be a banger, because if you try something new with your stories, it helps. I think doing the serialized entertainment for both of you, doing serialized work and putting it out on social media is a good idea. Giving people something they can read for free is good. It helps build. And what you need to do is to save yourself a lot of grief. Do not try and log into every site one by one and post stuff and do it in a timely manner. You will wear yourself out. It'll be tiring. What you should do is basically go to one of the many free aggregators out there. This is a place where you put in your username login for Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, eight other things. Blue Sky is in there. You basically put in like 12 different social media accounts, and then you make posts in one location on a service, and then it pushes out to all those others. And you can set up you can basically draw a bunch and set the entire month comic up in one go. This stuff goes. The reason why you want to do it that way is because you want to basically, put something in the bank and forget it. For lack of a better word, it means that, you have a bunch of material that's going to go for a month, similar to how I do videos. And for, 29 days out of the month, 30 days out of the month, you'll be able to put your attention on something else to grow your portfolio and grow your credibility while the automated system works for you. This is how you should think at these early stages. How can you get a lot of scale and a lot of volume with your art and your storytelling, so you get as many eyeballs as possible, but you don't know where the eyeballs are going to come, and you don't know what post is going to hit, and you don't know what will be successful. So a good approach is a lot of things, but you need to use tools to make that easier, because if you try to do them all manually one by one, you won't get to it. You'll be a lot of work. It'll be very time consuming, and eventually you will just stop. You won't continue, because it will exhaust you. So that's what I would do. Um, in a sense of, think about, a serialized story is a good idea. I've seen some artists do here's a hero for every month. So if you have a big backlog of work, say, every month a new hero, and then, utilize, not a lot of people use hashtags anymore for any real effect, but you put a theme to it. In short, by the way, you need to think like a marketer. That's really what it is. And I think a lot of creators, particularly artists and writers, this is a hard thing for them to wrap their heads around. They think my job is to write, or my job is to draw. But in the early stages, your job is to, come up with commercial ideas to market. More of your brain power and your energy should be going into that effort. By the way, if you're thinking, oh, who do I, what kind of aggregator are you talking about? Walls.io is a good one. Brandwatch is a good one. Bird's Eye is a good one. These are all these are either free or cheap, and you can do a lot with them. So I would definitely give it a shot. On top of that, things to get noticed. Yes, I think showing up to some local cons, having somebody to sell is good. Getting comics put out, even if you don't want to do all the crowdfunding shit, you just want to have some books on the table, that's good. Get something printed, get something in front of you. The other thing I think that I would recommend if you're an artist is you need to get some jobs where, you're going through the motions of somebody commissions you to do something, you draw it, it gets published, it's sold. You need to do more of that kind of work, because one of the things that's also going to separate you from, in addition to having, work that's related to what you're trying to get into, you want to show some proof that you can actually, take instruction, deliver something on time, it gets printed. And if you shoot immediately for comics, it's harder. As you identify yourself, it's just harder to get noticed there. It's harder to get the job in the first place there. So, reach out to get a little bit creative. This is where the marketing comes in. Reach out to websites that are gaming websites, and they'll almost all of them have offers for articles. You'll get paid very, very little. You don't want to do this. I'm not saying work for free forever. I'm saying, time box it 60 days where your goal is to get a bunch of work printed or, produced, paid for, shown by somebody who is not you. And all the while you're building an online portfolio. So, figure out what your hub is. Maybe it's a website, maybe it's a Bitly, maybe it's, it's some kind of home. And then you have the opportunity to say, here's some of my work. Here's different examples of my work. Here are splash pages. Here are paneled pages with sequential art. Here is a story that I ran on social media, which you can now see all of. Here is, some work that I did for a gaming website. Here is you start to build up this huge library, because probably the best way to get hired at these places, if that's what you want, or at least get noticed at a bigger level, is, have lots of work. Basically, and I find this, somebody gave me this advice once that they took, and I think it's smart, but it's a little weird to think about. Pick an artist that is kind of obnoxious in comics and figure out how many comics they've done, right? There's sites, you can probably figure that out, but and by the way, pick an easy one. Don't pick Mark Bagley. Don't pick, Walt Simonson. Pick somebody who's relatively new, who's maybe an asshole on Twitter, somebody that annoys you. And set a goal that in 1 year, you are going to have more published, printed, sold, more work out than that person. You're going to beat them in volume and spread in distribution. You're going to win. Because some people are really motivated by competition. And what will happen is, you get kind of 4 months into the year and you're tired and you're like, I don't know, I keep going to this marketing stuff. But if you have a target, if the target is, well, this person produced, 5 comics, and a handful of art, be better. By be better, I'm not giving that kind of holier than thou social media advice. I mean, beat them. Put out more comics, even if they're web comics. Have more followers. That is a completely useless stat, by the way, but just find a target and defeat them, because you see a lot of people whining on social media about, oh, none of the publishers will give me the time of day. The challenge is that's not a helpful stat. I mean, rather, it doesn't do you any good. It just eats up your own time, your own energy, your own positivity about what you're doing. A more healthy thing to do, even though it sounds a little counterintuitive, is to figure out a goal of something you want to defeat, and then go at that. And again, set a low goal so that you can clear it and go for bigger game. But it's just, you need something that's going to carry you through the months where it's just dull. And that competition works for some people. It doesn't work for others. So this is not advice for everyone, but it can help. Overall, and I think the biggest thing you could do is just get more of your work out there. When you get your work out there, promote it. There's a lot of books about kind of marketing for dummies and easy level ways of basic marketing. Even though it may be written with something else in mind, read some of those books. Self-marketing, self-promotion is something that typically I see that a lot of people in comics do really badly, or they do it in an incredibly amateur way. You get good at self-promotion, self-marketing, yeah, it's just another thing that's going to separate you from everyone else. And you'd be amazed how many people in comics have their jobs and are working because they are just, better at marketing themselves. They're a little noisier. They've made it clear to everyone that they can deliver pages on time. Any of those things. There's quite a few people in comics that were not hired for their talent. They were hired because they were perceived as easy to work with. So if you really want to get into the industry, put a lot of volume out there, show how accessible you are, be easy to work with. That's my advice. Anyway, thanks for listening.